and that means it's time for Muppin Sewing Emporium. Welcome to the show. I am very excited. We've had some beautiful, friendly people into our shop this week. I have to say, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Cheryl Muppin Whited, and you can call me Muppin. I am coming to you from beautiful downtown Paducah, Kentucky, where it is a beautiful, balmy. What is it today? It's like in the 50s today, and I have to say, like, this warm weather has brought all of the folks out, and I am loving it. Marion is here. Welcome. So please do me that favor. Tell me where you are watching from today. I love to hear that. We have had, again, so many wonderful people into the shop this week. I have been very excited. We've had people from Minnesota and Michigan and Wisconsin, and just lovely people. And I have to tell you today, I had a customer come in, and she said, I heard so much about the goth sewing shop in town. And I was like, yes, like we are that little goth sewing shop. So I love that. Chris, welcome. How are you doing tonight? Marion's watching from Glen Ellen, which is back near my hometown, in up there in the Chicagoland area. So welcome. I again had some there's to be told we had the little goth shop today. I was just like, oh, it's so cute, but I'm kind of right. So Mr. Spooky is here. Mr. Sprinkles has fallen over. He was I had him like propped up there. He's back there hiding. There's Mr. Sprinkles. We moved him. Now, he does not move on his own, although he's creepy enough to do that. Mr. Sprinkles came with me to an event, and now resides back on the set. And he's back there just haunting all of us. If you're out there, say hello, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. All of that helps us with the algorithm. And I don't know if you were as panicked as the rest of us during that little outage that Facebook and Instagram had this week. I know I went to log in and saw that we couldn't get in, and I had a little panic moment. So I hope you didn't have a little panic moment earlier this week. So yeah, and now I am boiling. And so it has been the last few weeks, it's been sweater on, sweater off, sweater on, sweater off. And it's raining out today. It's in the 50s. And can I tell you, that is making my hair just like do that frizz thing that I just absolutely hate. Anyway, look what I finished this week after our video on Friday. And you thought it was on your end. Oh, well. Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, and then here is the finished panel with the yo-yos. And I have to say, I like how this one turned out. Now, it really is, Marion. It is pretty. It's very pretty. Now, my friends, you can join this conversation. Just type us a little commenty, and you can be part of this this little chat as well. So please don't be shy. We have, yeah, so you can see that I did the flower one, And there are a couple flower ones sort of sprinkled throughout on the different sizes. Tammy says she likes this. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So tonight we are going to talk about ruching. Now, when you see it typed out, I know it looks very like a very unusual word, ruching, right? Ruching, ruching. It's not ruching, it's ruching. Or it's like roosh, Roosh, but it's not spelled that way. And so this technique, very old, and we're going to be doing that on a new panel, which will leave me down to one panel left. Now, if you've been following this project for the last couple of weeks, let me just explain to any of you who are new. I am doing a tuffet panel. Joy is here. Welcome, Joy. How are you? It's good to see you. So I'm doing this tuffet panel. So the tuffet has multiple sections to it, and here is one of those sections. And what you do is you can use this as a foundation to do a striped version, or each of these panels can be something different, which is what we're doing, which I'm doing. And each one of these, and there are 8 of them, and each of these panels will be a different fabric manipulation technique. And so we are calling it the texture tuffet. And I'm after doing these panels, I feel like they are so beautiful. I will never put my feet on this tuffet. Just so you know. It will be a decoration tuffet. I'm sure it will be a lovely addition to our shop, where we will then demo, of course, all of the tools that make the different textures on the tuffet, which of course I've been teaching these techniques for years and years now. So these are the yo-yos from the last couple of weeks, and aren't they cool? Like, they just came out so lovely, and I just am very, very, very excited about them. So we've got that. Now, don't forget, don't put your feet on this tuffet. And I will say to Mary, yeah, this flipping gorgeous. I love that. Yes, thank you. This technique, we're done with the clover yo-yo makers, which are, surprise, surprise, available right now from muppin.com. So if you want to learn how to do the yo-yos, those yo-yos available right now from muppin.com. So you're going to want to do that. Jerry says it looks awesome. Thank you, my friend. I do appreciate that. These little tools, these yo-yo makers really work. And they really do make. Now, this is all one color, but can you see all of these little yos? Is that a singular of a yo-yo? I think that's the singular of yo-yo. But can you imagine all these little yos as different colors on, say, like a blue or a green background for a field of flowers? I think I can see that. And so there you go. I'm very excited. It's done. Now, these last few tuffet panels have been going pretty quickly, which makes me feel good, because then I might actually be done with this. I got this tuffet in 2020, and this is how long it's taken me to get this project done. So if any of you feel bad about how slow you're working on things, don't, because I'm working very slowly on this thing. Although at this rate, I'm hoping it will be done before a quilt week, because it will be a lovely little centerpiece of awesomeness in our shop. Okay, so here is the next panel, and we are going to be doing ruching. which is a very old technique that originated in France in the early 1700s. The first example of ruching is on a garment from 1706, and so that's one of the many things I have been researching for my new book. And so this technique will also be included in the book. So there's that, but you get to see this as a little sneak peek. Now, today I have my little iron hot and ready. I shouldn't put my face too close to it. um, and my little Oliso here has been warming up for a little bit. I've got it, and I've got a uh, ironing station here set up. So let me grab the video and bring that in over here. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be one of those days. Okay, let's see here. All right, hello, welcome. And I gotta say too, like this poor little ironing pad has seen better days. It's definitely you know, it's a working a working ironing station. It is not necessarily it's got some gunk on it. It's just how it be sometimes. Okay, so here we're going to start with a strip, and this is a strip of fabric. This is width of fabric, so it's about 44 or 45 inches long, and it's 2 inches wide, and it is cut on the grain. Okay, so in the technique that we did a couple weeks ago, we had cut that on the bias. This is a technique that can be cut on the bias, but it doesn't have to be. So we are not cutting this on the bias. And my friends, I could not stand it any longer. And so for those of you that are like, how did you get that perfect manicure? These are Olive and June press-on nails, and they are $9 at Target and Walmart. And I have a ton of these in many different colors, and I just couldn't stand it anymore with how awful my nails looked. So you're welcome. and I had to the other night do a little self-care and glued my fingernails on, and then now I just feel like I can just do all the things where I want to over gesture because I have such nice nails. Anyway, so you too can have $10 awesome nails if you like. Okay, so we're gonna come in a little bit on this. And there we go. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make so we're going to take our raw edges and we're going to fold them in towards the middle of the fabric. And then this is a technique that I learned many years ago, and I was taught this by a lady who was teaching me how to do applique bias strips. And I said, you know what, that is a really cool technique, and I will use that till the end of my days. And here I am still using it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this pin and I have created a little bridge. Now, if you have your bias tape makers and things like that, you can use your bias tape makers for this process. I can never find my bias tape makers. I always put them somewhere safe, and that safe place I can never find again. So yeah. So what I should do is put a sticky note somewhere that says, the bias tape makers are in the safe space, and then the safe space is X place. So what this is going to do is this is going to take our fabric, and it's going to pull. As we pull it, it's going to fold it, and we're going to be able to press it in a way that it will be nice and flat. So I actually have 2 pins here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in 2 spots, and I'm going to put my iron in the center spot. Now, if you just want to put this through your, like if you have a little ironing board cover on your ironing station, you're going to want to use that. And here I've got like this is like made of a foam. And this is not my favorite ironing station, but it is portable. So we are using it for that reason. Now, because it's a little, this is where my fingernails, they kind of help me carry the point over the other edge. And now I've got this little spot that I can pull and press at the same time. So because these are glass, this one is a glass headed pin, and this one is a magic pin. Magic pins, you can use your iron, you can iron over them, which I would normally be fine with. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm setting my iron right there, and I'm just moving the cord out of the way. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull, and it's going to press it at the same time. Now I can use my finger over here to keep that under and make it centered. But this will make quick work of pressing these edges. And there goes my pin. So let's fix that. You can see the iron has made a little spot there, but that's all right. And this would be a good time for me to get out my hot fingers. So I'm going to do that really quickly while we wait. But just to show you here, now I've got that nice crease on the rest of this. So these are little tools that we sell. So we sell these in our shop on our website as well. These are called hot fingers, and you can find them on our page under hot fingers. They come in black now, which, I'm now replacing all of my purple ones with black, because we're the goth quilt store. So this, my friends, is so these are silicone, and that means if I am doing anything with something hot, like these pins that might get hot, I can now protect my fingers. Where was this stuff? Where were these when I was working with hot glue all those years? Because I have fingertips still, but not really. So this allows me to get close to the iron, and I can't accidentally burn myself with that. So there we go. We're just continuing to pull, and now I can touch hot fabric with my fingers without scorching them. This isn't gonna like totally not burn me, but it is going to at least keep me from like a real scorching burn. So this is always good if you have to do something with like a really tiny area where you have to get with the iron. That hot finger is going to keep you nice and safe. And again, the number of times I've burned myself with a good old fashioned, you know, trying to hold fabric down that's hot, or what I'm talking about. It's just so much easier. So we're just gonna making a little adjustments as we go, like here on this end, and just pulling it under the iron, and the iron's doing all that work And so there we go. We're almost at the very end here. And isn't that cool? Like, it's the coolest little process to get your iron. And of course, because I've got these, I can pick up the hot pins without a problem, and so on. So, and because they are kind of grippy, if you are doing any kind of sewing and you need to have extra grip, these are great for needle pulling as well. So I love a tool that does more than one thing in the sewing room, and these hot fingers are it. So we can grab some of those um, from our shop. Gotta love it. And of course, that little process there is all done. So I can take these off now. And if you get one stuck, they just roll right off. I could tell you that Max absolutely loves to play with these when he's in the office. He just finds these and he puts them on all his fingers. He's really funny about it. So, all right. So here is our strip that we have now pressed into a it was 2 inches. It was 2 inches and now it's an inch. And that is what we've been going for. Just going to give the front end of this a little press. So, it's a neat technique. All right, so now we've got our strip here. So let's come on in a little further. So Marion's asking, how is Max? He is adorable. He is doing really well. He's actually on the phone with Charlie right now. They are playing video games. Today is the new season of Fortnite. So those of you who have kids understand what that might be. And Fortnite, today he's doing Fortnite, and he's doing he also did an what do they call, like some kind of exam for orchestra. Max plays the violin. So he's been doing really well in his orchestra classes. So he's we're very proud of him about that. All right. And so we are now going to be taking our heirloom smocking template, and this tool, this is where I love tools that do more than one thing in the sewing room. Just like our hot fingers do more than one thing, so does the heirloom smocking template. So you can smock with the smocking template. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to line up the fabric on the center registration line, and we're going to take that and we're going to do some markings. Now this is on the folded side, so the side with the raw edges. Yes, it is a great tool. I use it for a lot of different things, and again, like I said, I like tools that do more than one thing, because if it doesn't do more than one thing, I'm not, even I don't like that. So there you go. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the pencil here, and we're going to put a little mark on the top and bottom of the fabric in every other row. Now, I have seen all sorts of ruching specialty templates, and I am here to tell you, you do not need specialty templates to do this technique. This technique you can do with your standard ruler, or you can do it with the smocking template. I find that the smocking template just makes it easy to know where to do your marks. So we're just following, an alternating plan here. We're going from the top to the bottom, and these marks are going to be on the back. So we will never see these marks. We don't need to worry about taking them out. So we don't need to worry about like erasing them or that someone will see any of this. And so I'm just going down the strip, and I am trying to keep the center of the strip lined up pretty evenly as far as I can on the center line, on that center registration mark. And that's just so that I can keep this as straight as possible. So all I'm doing is, again, doing this every other line. So you can see that these lines are offset from each other. Okay. So we do have, and this is why I like using this template, because I don't have to use a ruler and keep moving it. That's personally not my cup of tea, because I want to get to the fun part. Like, the marking part isn't the fun part. The marking part's the necessary part. I like to get to the fun part, which is the sewing, right? Isn't that what we're here to see, is some sewing? But we do have to do the marking in order for us to get to that part. So it's a necessary evil, if you can even call it that. So, all right. So we're getting here down to the last, we're probably at the last like 10 inches or so of this strip. And we're just making all these marks so that we have something to sew towards. The other ruching templates on the market, they only do that one thing. I like this because, well, you don't have to just do smocking with your smocking template. You can ruche. You can also do ruching. All right, last little bit here. We're at the end. And once we get this marked, we're on to the sewing. Okay. So yeah, so today's been a really good day in the store. We've had a lot of lovely folks coming to visit Paducah, and it's just been a good week. Happy people makes happy customers, makes happy Cheryl. I like it. And yeah, so there we go. Now we're at the end. All right. So way back here at the beginning. So if you recall how this is going to work, this is the background, okay? And this is where, all of our ruching is going to be applied. And what I'll end up doing is I will take the template here, it's gotten a little wrinkled, and draw the lines in where all of my ruching will be applied into the center. Now, if you remember our rouleau version, okay, so here's where the rouleau is. So the rouleau piece, we had to make sure it was within the edges so that when we sew these together, you're not sewing into some of this texture. So that's part of the process here. So we just have to remember that eventually it's all going to be applied down onto this background. Okay. So what we're making is a strip, and I need to grab, oh goodness, our thread and a needle. There we go. And of course, these are our needles. These are the heirloom sewing needles that we have, the Get to the Point heirloom sewing needles. So, of course, you can always get those from muppin.com. And we're not going to give ourselves a lot of this material, okay, or thread. We're only going to give ourselves our typical, wrist to elbow length. And there's a really good reason for that here. Okay. All right. So now we're going to give ourselves a knot. And where we're going to start, we're always going to have the folded edge up towards us. Okay. So this folded edge is going to always be facing you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the fabric here, just on the edge right there. And I'm going to go to the knot and I'm going to go through the that one little spot there like 3 times. And that is going to give us a good anchor point that we are going to be doing a lot of pulling on this thread. And that's why we don't want a long piece. Because this whole process, this whole fabric here is going to be held in tension by the thread. So we need a good, strong thread that is fresh off the spool. Okay, don't use a scrap, or don't use old dried out weakened thread here. This is going to be the time when you want to get a new spool and a good sturdy weight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go back and forth, and what I'm aiming for with my sewing, my running stitch, is this mark on the other end of the strip. So we're just going to go through all the layers, and we're going to try to take a bunch of stitches, okay? But this is not one of those times where, the quilt police will come and count the number of stitches you're doing here, okay? You just want a couple of stitches on each end. And then what you do here at the corner is this is where it really matters. Okay. So as you can see, my thread is on the back side of the piece. It's the side that's facing towards me. And what I need to make sure is that my thread goes over the edge, and I start my next stitch on the opposite side, so that thread goes over the edge. And now I'm going to just do more of those little running stitches towards the next mark on the fabric strips. So that's why we marked it, because these are our sewing. We're going towards those places. So now I'm going to take, and what you're going to see there is you're going to see how the thread goes over the edge. Okay, that's really, really, really important here. And let me get that in focus so that you can see that. But it goes over the edge right there, and it's now we're on this side. So in order for us to go over the edge, our next stitch is going to be taken from the top here, and we're going to aim and do that running stitch towards the other towards that mark. And that's just your kind of like your end goal is to end up near there. Okay. You don't have to like actually be there. You can be a little off, and you can see here that is going over the edge. And on this one, again, I've ended up on the top, so we're going to go over the edge, and we start the next stitch on the bottom. So those are the key things to remember while ruching is to the where you end up, top or bottom, and to aim your stitching at the mark on the fabric. Okay, so now we've got a couple zigzags. I want to do at least one more before I pull. And yes, you are going to pull. And I will tell you that you do not, do not do all of them on the thread that you have on here. Do not do the whole thread and then pull. Okay? That's so, so, so key right now. If I don't teach you anything, I need to teach you that. So now we're going to pull, and we're going to just gather this little area, okay, from the one end, and you're just going to tug lightly. Do not tug really super hard. And you're going to take a little stay stitch right there, right here on the back, a little stay stitch. And if you want to, you can go through the loop. That'll make you feel better, okay? But you're going to do that little stay stitch, and that's going to help you lock this section, okay? Now you have locked this section, and you can see now I don't have to hold that. I don't have to keep it in tension, and we just move on with our stitches. And we do the same thing. We do about, 3 to 4 ziggy zaggies, and then you pull. And you don't want to do the whole thing and then pull, because you will break that thread somewhere in the middle. Ask me how I know. I've been doing these for many, 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 many moons. And what you want is to not have to go back and restitch the whole strip. You want to just, if it breaks, the only thing it goes to is the last place that you had your stitches. So it's kind of like a little insurance to do just a couple at a time, and then stop, because you don't want to do the whole thing. Oh, it's so sad when that happens. Like it's like and if you don't make your stitches really strong and things like that, yeah, it gets sad really quick. Now, you do want to always kind of like help the fabric down the length of the thread, because you don't want to be pulling really super hard on the thread, because guess what? It's just thread. It's going to break. So we don't want that. And what we're also trying to do is to get even gathers. Okay, so we want this gather to be fairly even. We don't want that to really come. We don't want them to be like some to be too tight and other ones not tight enough. So you do want to keep an eye on that. So again, I'm just doing those few stay stitches there. My thread's looping around, and I'll do one more and do a loop here just to give it a little knot. So this is what it's looking like on the front. And again, you do have a little bit of room to play with the gathers, but it's like I did tell you, this section is being held in tension by the thread. The thread is doing a lot of work here. So that's why it's important to use a strong thread and to only go so far with your thread. If you start doing this whole thing And by the end of it, your thread is like real ratty. And I get it. I am one of those people that I don't know who, in the world trained me to think this way, but I think like, well, that's still a usable piece of thread. I can sew down to the little nub. And I promise you, you do not want to sew down to the little nub. It is nothing but sadness when you sew down to the nub, because that means your thread is weak. It's been shredded. You can tell a lot by the tail. Okay, like these tails of your thread, like if this starts to look really ratty, it's time to replace the thread. And then what you do to do that, and we're going to get to a spot here where I think it's good to do so. I just want to get one more zigzag in here. Um, that weakened thread isn't going to be able to hold on to this tension for very long. It may look great today, but what will happen is over time, as this tuffet gets used and it's shuffled around and stuff is rubbed up against this, this thread in here, if it's weakened, that's a point where it can break, and we don't want that. So that's why, you know helping the thread down the helping the gathers down the thread is important, because we don't want to stress this thread out. So, like, this is a good point where you can take those stay stitches and then assess whether or not your thread needs to be replaced. And I know you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, there's like a good 8 inches of thread there. That's like perfectly usable. But it's when you start to look at, the quality of the thread here. And I think I'm still good for now, but I'm just gonna, you know, we'll just keep an eye on it, because there is a point where you see it kind of fraying and looking a little fuzzy. If your thread looks fuzzy, that's an indicator that it's time to put it aside. So, all right. So this is one of those where, again, you're just paying attention to which side you end up on, and I mean, and these are not they're not big stitches, but they're not little either, and they're just there to gather. Okay, they're just there to give these little ridges. So that's what we're doing. And this is, again, a super, super vintage process. Very, very old, 1700s at least. Then it became very popular in America during the Civil War era. And a lot of dresses in the Civil War era and in the Victorian era after, this technique makes the jump from the overseas to the United States. And then in the Victorian times, well, even in the Civil War era, late Civil War era, ruched circles are found on Baltimore album quilts. And so that's a really cool thing, that this type of uh, decoration is found on Baltimore album quilts. So it makes the leap from garment to quilting in about the 1860s or so. So I know you're like, how do you know all this stuff, Cheryl? Well, I will tell you, I say this all the time in my shop. It's my job to know this stuff. I do the research, and that is my job, is to learn about and know about these techniques. And I kind of dig the history, so I love passing that information on to you guys. So, all right, so here's a good few zigzags, and now I'm just going to pull. And what happens when you go over the edge? When I said you needed to make sure that your thread goes over that fold. This is why you get these big, deep V's that happen, these hills and valleys that you're making. And those hills and valleys are made even deeper by having that thread in that spot, in going in over the edge, as I was showing you. So that little trick gives you a really, really cool level of dimension to this technique, because if you don't, these can look a little soft, and you want that little deep V to get that deep, almost like heart shape. Okay, so that's where that going over the edge of the fabric makes a difference. So here's the piece of ruching so far. As you can see, um, this is going to be really applied really similarly to the rouleau. And where the rouleau, we were only attaching it on the edge of the strip. This is applied very directly. And I do have a sample that I brought in here, and I must find it, because it's in the middle of all of this stuff. There it is. Okay, so here is an example of a little quilt that I did for our heirloom box, which was, gosh, now 2 years ago. I think this heirloom box version was like 2 years now. And so what this is just the ruching has been turned on itself in a circle like that, right? And so yes, Chris, you are absolutely right. Let me grab the thing here so I can show your comment. Great for working in front of the TV. Yes, it's fantastic for that, because you can look at the TV and you can do this thing where you're like looking at the TV and then looking down at your work, and looking at the TV and then looking down at your work. And it's not like counted cross stitch or anything where you got to count. So but in order to get this to turn on itself, like what you do is you take this raw edge and you just tuck it under, and then you start tacking it in the as I like to call it, in the hills and the valleys. And so once you tuck the raw edge under, you would just attach the hills and the valleys to the previous layer, and you just keep going around, and that's what gives you this here. This is the circle, and then you can use it as stems, leaves, all kinds of things. Baltimore album quilts used this center, like ruched rose, as the centerpieces for a lot of their, like those lyre shapes, like the harp shapes, and then the center would be the rose, and then you'd have all the leaves coming up out of it. So that's a very, very traditional, but this is made modern, right? um so again, you have your flower, you have your stems, you have that. But in on garments, okay, because this now has almost like a bias like flexibility, even though the strip is done on the straight of grain, once you have the gathers put in it, it then can act very much like a bias strip. So, like the other technique, like the rouleau, you can put this into a quilt with like swags in a border. You could put this on a garment. You can do it like, around collars or to decorate like a cardigan or things like that. That was very popular in you know as a way to dress up an old cardigan, to make a cardigan new and fresh. They would take a sweater and they would put those decorations like here on the lapel area of this cardigan, and so you would be able to like freshen up your sweater by covering a hole, or things like that. This was a very thrifty thing to do. It's also another technique like the rouleau, where it is a technique that can be made out of the fabric that the main garment was made of. And so a lot of times this could have been made with the leftovers that was from the cutting of the pattern pieces of the garment, right? Because every piece of fabric is precious. When it's very expensive, all of this extra fabric becomes something to be used as a decoration. And so this is just, one of those things that you can do with it. So because it does have this now ability to be, you know, made into different shapes and in different ways, I like that you get a lot of flexibility out of this. So it is going to shrink down your original strip to about half. Okay, so that's an important thing to remember. If you need to have continuous feet of this in order to make a very large border, you're going to want to attach them on the diagonal to itself. And so that would be pretty straightforward, just much like you would do a bias binding, and you attach them on the on the bias. So that's an important thing to do. And then the other thing is don't include any of your selvages, because again, this edges the selvages are always a much denser weave of this fabric. You want to trim that part off before you continue forward, and that's why I ended that right there instead of going on to the next one here, because we're going to cut this off. So the goal is to do this, okay, this piece, and we're gonna do this as under this method, okay, where we're going, and these are an inch apart because that's the width of our smocking template, okay. So each of these is a ½ inch. So when you go you go to the top and then the bottom and then the top again, those top two are going to be an inch apart. Our next one, okay, because I have 4 strips here that I'm going to ruche. Our next one is actually going to be skipped every other line, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to make these sections further apart. So they'll be 2 inches apart. So your diagonal is going to be at a much more severe angle. Okay, because if you were to imagine that these 2 marks are not here, you would end up going from here to here. Okay, so when you do that, these swags become much wider and much softer. So they end up having more of a softer sort of petal look to them. And so that is another variation on this technique. There is a one more version of that. There's actually at this point it's kind of infinite. You can do a whole lot of different techniques um, for the gathers. But the next one we're going to do is it's going to be a square. So what we will do is it will be across and then down and then across and then up and then across. And so that running stitch is going to be to here, then to here, then to here, then to here. So instead of going angled, we're going to go sort of like in a box shape or a square shape. So I'll even show you on a piece of paper here what I mean. Okay, so instead of your stitch going like this, okay, it will go like this. Okay. And when you gather that, you're going to get a different look than it would be for this. And it will be a different look than if you were to do, oh, I just broke the lead there. Okay. So each of these sort of things will give a different look to the fabric on the uh when it's finished. And so that's going to allow me to have different ruching techniques in the tuffet. And so yeah, I'm pretty excited about getting these strips done. And then next week, I will show you how we're going to attach it to the background, because then we will be ready to attach this to the background. I'm pretty excited because this has really come kind of a long way, and this tuffet's almost done. When I first started doing it, I was given the tuffet by the tuffet source, to kind of play with and, eventually do something with. And it's just taken me this long to get that full vision. Plus, I had a whole bolt of this beautiful golden yellow color. It doesn't look like that right here on this this part of the screen, but it is this sort of like buttery, cheddary yellow, and I just love that color. Our future living room, our previous living room, and our future living room is like a dark navy blue, and so these yellows really pop. So we have like giant yellow pillows, and I was looking at a yellow sofa, but now I've decided not to get a yellow sofa. I don't want to clean a yellow sofa. I decided I want to do like a dark gray sofa and yellow pillows. So yes. Charlotte says Little Miss Muffet sitting on her tuffet. Well, it's Little Miss Muppin sitting on her tuffet. Although no one will be allowed to sit on this tuffet. It's got way too much work in it. It's way too bougie. It was just a tuffet to look at. You know how some people have those living rooms where you're not allowed to sit on the furniture? This is kind of that. This is kind of the furniture you're not allowed to sit on. So it's coming together so nicely. We've got the yo-yo panel all finished, and I'm pretty happy with how this came out. Now, can we just say again, what if you made them all in green and this is on a white background and it's a Christmas tree with the occasional like color with like a wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be really cool? Anyway, I'm just too excited about it. I hope you are too. My friends, it is time for us to depart company. But don't forget, take a look at all the cool things that we talked about over on shop.muppin.com. And I will see all of you next week on Friday. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. Good night. Take care. Bye bye.